Episode 74, Embracing Your Conversion Path with Kayla Giles.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and certified through the Life Coach School. Together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with the coach? Here we go.
With anything in life, when you enter into something for the first time, there are a lot of unknowns and ways of doing things that are not obvious to you. When an individual becomes a new member in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they have questions and don't know all the ways to do things. This requires patience not only on the new convert's part, but also on a lifelong member's part to help the convert integrate and become comfortable in the church. As a convert herself, Coach Kayla Giles is on a mission to help other new converts in being able to assimilate into the church with less stress and anxiety, and to know that learning the gospel of Jesus Christ is a pursuit that they will be on forever. She wants her clients to know they are welcome and that their feelings and thoughts about this new path are all normal and to be expected. Whether you are a convert yourself or a lifelong member of the church, this podcast will help you make the integration into the church one that is valuable for all.
I am joined today by another amazing coach. Big surprise, right? That's what it always is a fantastic coach that gets to join and have a conversation with me. I am joined today by Coach Kayla Giles, and I feel bummed for people that they don't get to, actually they can now. We're actually posting our these conversations on our YouTube channel as well. But usually when people are listening to it on a podcast, they don't get to see what I get to see. And I just love getting to see people's faces. And I think it's how it connects me to them so much. But anyway, I wish you could all tune in right here and get to see Kayla and her beautiful smile. And I'm just excited though for them to hear the conversation, because I know what you have to say is so amazing. So Kayla, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so fun. Kayla, before we get started, will you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. So I am Kayla Giles. I am originally from Montana. I currently live in Washington State. I'm a mom of 5, a wife, a convert to the church, and in October of last year, I became a certified life coach. So that was really exciting for me to do that.
Yeah, that's a big step. I mean, I know I've been there, and especially when you are a stay-at-home mom and that's been your focus for a long time, making shifts into doing things like becoming a coach or really anything. When any woman decides to go back into the workforce in any way, it's always a shift in some way.
Yeah, it was something I knew I wanted to do. And what's funny is that I continued my certification with Corinne Crabtree and certified with her in April and started a weight loss coaching business. And then I really felt like something was missing and I was meant to do something else. So after I swear nonstop prayer for guidance, I decided I really wanted to coach and connect with other LDS converts. So that's really exciting.
I think that this is such a valuable corner of the universe to spend time in. And I was telling this to Kayla before we started recording here, that when I saw what her niche was, I thought, this is so fascinating to me that I've not really seen somebody else coaching in this area, when I feel like it's probably a very useful place to be.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes and what happens, because I'm not going to lie, I kept Googling nonstop, like LDS convert coach, Church of Jesus Christ convert coach. And I'm like, there's something I'm missing. Why am I not seeing this? And then I kind of put some feelers out there on Facebook groups, and I started a private Facebook group for LDS converts and kind of got to know others that were feeling, just like something is missing a little bit.
Yeah. So tell me, when were you baptized? When were you converted to the church?
I converted to the church in 2007, July 2007, while pregnant with my first baby.
Okay.
So my husband grew up as a member. And when we were dating and first married, he struggled to stay active. And so his home teachers kind of popped in on us one day. And I don't know, we always laugh about it now because I had no clue. Just these nice men in suits. I guess now it's more ministering, right? But back then it was home teachers. And I'm like, come in. Yeah, he's home. And he wasn't too happy with me. He was like, what did you do? And then when they were in, they're like, Kayla, I have a question. Do you guys want to come meet the missionaries at my house? And I was like, that sounds awesome. My husband's like waving behind them, like, please no. But it all was amazing because we went into this amazing family's home, and I couldn't believe they just invited us in with their 3 kids, and we met with the missionaries. And as soon as I think I heard the first lesson, I was like, yes, this is where we're supposed to raise our family. So we both worked really hard, and my husband was able to baptize me 7 months pregnant. So that was interesting, but it was awesome. And there has definitely been, trials and setbacks that I'm sure other converts have experienced, but I'm thankful for that journey.
It's so interesting for me to think about. I have been a member of the church my whole life, but have spent time with actually some really dear friends who are converts to the church and have viewed it from their perspective in seeing that it is probably, it has to be a really difficult, let me say it this way. I don't think we make it easy necessarily we think we do, for people who have not been members for a long time to come into this community, because coming in from as a convert, it's different. I'm certain, and I'm sure we don't make it easy. I don't know. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's true in ways. I think from discussing with other converts, it just feels a little lonely after they're baptized. And I think the paths of many are different, but a lot of times what a convert has gone through or the choices they have made to get there can be a little more of a detour than a member would have taken in ways. And I see converts struggle with the value they can bring to the church because they're holding on to the past and see themselves as a beginner. And it's even small things like primary hymns, not knowing church lingo, that they just hold themselves back. And so being a convert myself, I try to really focus on it's okay to be a beginner. It's okay to be a little different. It's okay if they don't understand where I came from or what's going on with me, because maybe I don't understand how they were brought up in the church and how it's just a lifetime of them and naturally what their trials are. As a convert, I think it's so important for them to embrace their path and share it because it's important. You have no clue what someone else is going through and how you can help them with the choices you've made before the baptism. And I always hold on to this quote by Elder Renland, I think is how you pronounce it, and that he said, God cares a lot more about who we are and who we are becoming than about who we once were. And I think that's so important for members who were born in the church and converts. We're joining these two worlds together, and so that can be fragile a little bit at times.
Yeah, and I like that you used the word fragile. I know for me, there are parts of my testimony that have felt fragile at times. And I think that's something that we can remember, that there's probably value for all of us to feel like a beginner of different parts of our testimony at different times. Like we can have strength in our testimonies in some areas, but in other areas, it might do us a lot of good to put ourselves in a beginner's shoes and start over and rebuild that testimony, because I think sometimes our testimonies are based upon things that need to shift sometimes.
Yeah, I love that. I do think that is really important to just remember what it's like to be a beginner. And sometimes when we get complacent and we're in our routine of even like me joining in 2007, I still feel like a beginner sometimes when I go into Relief Society. I'm like, what are we talking about? But I've really worked through, being okay where I am and knowing Heavenly Father knows my intention. And that takes a lot when you are, I guess, merging two worlds together when you're first baptized in a way. Like, I don't think people realize like you're merging two worlds together and it can be really uncomfortable. And at that point, you really don't know where you fit in anymore, because in your old, pre-baptism, in your old ways, you've been living a different life than you are now. And I say this with my own experience and things I've coached others on. So with that, I think it's helpful to take a step back and really dig into like where you want to be in the church, why you joined the church, and where you want to go from there. And then once you really can visualize that, you can take maybe the opinions of others and the judgments of others, because you're not only getting that from people at the church, you're also getting that from people in your life previously. They're like, what are you doing? Right? So,
yes.
Yeah, it's really important to focus on you at that point in your path and be confident in that. I mean, just think of what a blessing your conversion story is, right? And help others.
And just like this is key for all of us, but just being intentional about the choices that you make, the choice to be baptized, but then the choices that you're going to make in the future, where you want them to lead you, and being like really having a plan and proceeding wisely.
Yeah, because I think after you're baptized, you're like, okay, I'm done. Now what? And the guidance is a little like, I don't know what to do. But there is so much more to do, like getting to the temple and just feeling comfortable in the routine of church, or, the family home evening, come follow me, all of those basic things.
Yeah. I had heard a coach, or it wasn't a coach, sorry. It was just somebody that on Instagram that I follow. I don't know her name. I think it's Hippie Mormon or something like that, maybe, but she had made a comment because she's a convert to the church. And she had said, I wish that people would have not only had compassion towards me as a new member of the church, but they would have had compassion towards my family as well, because they were struggling with me in getting baptized and joining the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It wasn't just me that was entering into a new phase, but my family was too. And so this was a while ago, but she was just alluding to the idea of, maybe it is an idea that people can reach out to family members who have been baptized and are not baptized themselves, just to check in with them to see how they are doing and show some love and attention to them as well, which I thought was something I had actually never considered before, that yes, there is some struggle going on in the family of those who are baptized as well.
Yeah, I love that, because I do think at the time I was very worried about my family that I was just creating, right? I was just married, just having a baby. But my parents were like, what is going on? We've already baptized you when you were younger. Why are you choosing to change faith? And just the lack of knowledge that I was being taught, but they weren't. And so I wish maybe even myself had compassion for them, but it's been an amazing experience, to be honest with them, because I am still the only convert in my family, but we've grown from them not attending my baptism to speaking at my children's baptism. And so it's just been awesome. And with both of our parents living in the same small town, my husband's mom is always inviting them and, answering questions and sending the missionaries over. My dad's like, the missionaries are here again. But he's awesome. He lets them come in. And one time he's like, I just bought this one elder's shoes because he didn't have shoes that had, he had duct tape on his shoes. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So they have really embraced where they're at with it. I think they've seen the blessings in our lives with it. So it's pretty
That's
awesome.
amazing. And I would, and probably, I'm certain not everybody's experience is that way. In fact, I know it's not. Obviously, we've heard stories of people whose family do not embrace it, but I love that you get to experience that in your family.
Yeah, I think it's great also for our children to see, like, I was talking about kind of the merging of two worlds. Like, you can make them work if everybody's willing to, and in time and patience as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious about, and this is sad to me to consider, but I'm certain that it's there, that there are judgments and things that you feel are thoughts that people have about you, or in general, just as a convert to the church from within the church. What can you share about that?
Well, kind of like we previously said, with different paths and different, I think the self-compassion sometimes is lacking in ways of just knowing, like, we really don't even know something as simple as like where the stories are in the Bible or the Book of Mormon, right? Obviously the Book of Mormon is newer to us as converts, but hymns, the way prayer, right? And so just being patient and seeing it from both sides of, I might not know the basics that come natural to you. Mm-hmm. And so that was really hard because I think I was stuck in like wanting to fit in so bad. But I was also, have to say, I've been blessed with like being embraced because my husband's family, we always lived like near my husband's family. So we would go into his brother's ward just so we felt a little more comfortable when I was first baptized and he was newly getting activated again.
I appreciate that you're willing to think outside the box. Like, some people would probably think that, well, we can only go to this one ward or whatever it is, but recognizing that you might need something different and be willing to go to a different ward where you felt comfortable at the time, and advocating for yourself and what would probably be best for you and your family at the time.
Yeah, I think it's like where your comfort zone is to just get you going. Like, eventually we went to our ward and whatnot, but I think like that's not where we were at, and we weren't willing to like kind of hold ourselves accountable. So going with his brother's family helped give us that accountability and just feel at home a little bit,
Yeah, that's so true. So good. I think for all of us, we do need to learn to offer ourselves that grace and that compassion, because no matter where we are on our journey, we're all in a different place. We tend to think that we should all be in this place, and how boring would that be? That's not the way it's supposed to be. We're all in different places, and we do have to learn to offer ourselves and everybody around us compassion and let them be where they are at the moment.
Absolutely. Yes.
So as we're speaking about that and being compassionate with ourselves and where we are, I know there's also this concept of our relationship with God and how we all feel that we are before him, like what our standing is like before him too. And I don't know, I guess because I've been a member my whole life, I feel like I have this relationship with Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother that is pretty solid. And I feel like I, for the most part, know where I sit and stand with them. Do you experience something different?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I kind of think of it as like a new relationship, like you're dating and you're learning how to build that relationship, right? I think the biggest thing you can do is do what you were doing before you were baptized and while you're preparing to be baptized, or when you're preparing to go to the temple, like praying, reading the scriptures, making sure you're trying to keep the spirit close, because that is really hard for, I think, a convert to even know, okay, am I feeling the spirit, or is this just what I want to do? And so with that new relationship, just truly trusting in the path you have chosen and remembering why you are there in the first place. When we remember God and how he accepts all of us, it can be really hard to sometimes remember that. But if you keep that in the back of your mind and remember the missionary discussions about the atonement and plan of salvation and keep studying just the basics, we know he loves us and sees our efforts. And I know when I'm struggling myself, I try to find Christ-like things to do to feel closer to him. And I think that is what you need to do to form that stronger relationship with Heavenly Father.
I think something that's so important for us to remember is that a relationship really in large part is the thoughts that we have about somebody else and the things that it's in our minds, right? Yes, strong relationships are formed when we have communication, like verbal communication, and we're able to communicate and talk and walk back and forth with one another and do all the things. But it's so important for us to see that we can have a strong relationship with our Heavenly Father in large part because we choose to spend time thinking about him. We choose to spend time in the scriptures, which is creating that relationship. And we can translate that into our everyday relationships as well. You know, the time that we spend thinking about somebody in positive ways is strengthening our relationship with them. And on the flip side, the time that we spend thinking about somebody in ways that are not helpful can actually decrease and weaken a relationship. And I just think it's valuable to think about that on both sides. You know, the relationship you want with Heavenly Father is going to be in large part because of how you choose to think about him and how you choose to spend time with him and our Heavenly Mother in ways that are productive.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's so important to remember, like, if we can think of Heavenly Father as who he is, compassionate and loving and understanding, then we're more willing to do our part as well in investing time and gaining knowledge in our journey with him. I think it's always important, like a relationship, to keep going, keep investing, but it really does come down to you and your thoughts about it.
Mm-hmm. I was asked to speak at an institute. I live outside of Boise, Idaho, and I was asked to speak at the Boise State Institute not too long ago. And one of the questions they asked that they wanted me to share was why I choose to stay in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And one of the main doctrinal reasons why I am here is because of our views and perspectives about God, our Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. I think that there's been so much lost in our society, in the world, about his true nature. We tend to see him in such a ruler, like a domineering, oppressive, you all need to do certain things sort of light, which I do not believe is an accurate portrayal of what his true nature is. And I am so grateful that we are continuing to restore his true nature to the earth. And I think part of that is, you know, that we do have a Heavenly Father and a Heavenly Mother, and many other theologies. I'm not aware of any other theologies that actually believe that, but I'm so grateful. And I don't know where I came onto that tangent, but I'm grateful for that knowledge that we do have a Heavenly Father and a Heavenly Mother who love us exactly how we are and want us to progress in a way that makes us happy. And so I think that really does speak to remembering where we stand with him. And when we do get discouraged, no matter where we are in the journey, just to know that he loves us exactly where we are, where we stand.
Yeah. And I think that just remembering you have your agency, and wherever you go with that, it's okay. We can always find our path back to him, right? Because it's very important to always keep that in mind, because I feel like a lot of converts fall away from the church because they had a hiccup or a little detour. And I think just come back, like, communicate with Heavenly Father, keep building that relationship, because we're here because of our agency. And he does have, you know, this amazing basics in the church that I absolutely love, that we live by. I think one thing with converts is that they feel restricted a little bit with some basics like the word of wisdom or Sunday seems to be a tough one. The reason I think that's important to remember is like, it doesn't have to feel restricted. It's just something that is helping us in our journey and our path back to Him.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a really interesting one. That's just been part of my life always, right? Word of wisdom, Sabbath day observance, that it's never felt restrictive. It's always felt enabling to me. I can really see that if that's not the lifestyle that you're used to, that would definitely be a challenge. I'm curious though, in talking about that, you said you alluded to hiccups, like the converts who leave the church, often it's because of a hiccup along the way. Would you say that, are those hiccups usually internal, or, I mean, they're always internal, but are they from feeling projected judgment outside of them, or is it from somebody else that's created, that has said something or offended in some way, or is it more internal, just like, this is too hard, or this is not what I want, this, I changed my mind sort of thing?
I mean, for me and other converts I've spoken to, I think it really comes within, and sometimes the actions of members and not understanding or seeing where they have come from can be feel a little judgmental, like this is not for me. But I think that we see that in any aspect of our lives.
Yeah. Yesterday, I was doing an Instagram live with some coaches, and one of them, Tina Gosney, had made the comment that if we could seek first for understanding rather than just trying to teach. And I think as people who, from like me, who's been a member of the church my whole life, if I could just seek to understand your point of view or somebody else's point of view who is new to the church and might have a different view, or maybe not even have a view or a perspective on something that we're talking about, but seek for understanding rather than just trying to teach, because I think we probably have a lot more to learn from a beginner's perspective, if you want to put it that way, from a beginner's perspective than we think we do. There's so much more we can learn. And that's where love enters into the story rather than just trying to teach, because I think we try to teach or say, well, this is the way it's supposed to be done. And that comes from a place of fear, of thinking that everything has to be done a certain way or it's all going to be wrong. I think we have a lot to learn. I think we have a lot to learn if we could just seek for understanding.
Absolutely. And I think as a convert, you can do the same, is just to ask questions, not just feel like if you're not understanding, it's okay to raise your hand and be like, can you explain this to me? I know that feels a little like one of these things is not the same a little bit, but
yeah,
asking questions and really embracing what maybe you're not understanding as well, because the person sitting next to you might actually have that same question.
For sure. And also some people who think they might understand that might have room to understand it in a very different way and gain a totally different perspective on it.
Absolutely. Yes, I love that.
Okay. So Kayla, before we wrap it up here, is there anything else that you feel like you want to address? Anything that people should know?
Well, I guess if you're a Latter-day Saint that grew up in the church, I always tell them, like, they're like, what can I do to embrace a convert in their path? And I think that I was telling, like, I have top 3 things. Seems like the other converts I've talked to in my Facebook group have said somewhat of the same things, which is number 1, just invite. And after they're baptized, whether they've been a part of the church for 20 years or a part of the church for 2 days, invite and make sure they feel welcome. Invite them to activities. This is just a way, as you expressed earlier, to make them feel loved and not different in a way. And I'm going to call myself out a little bit on this, but ministering is huge, and just embracing that, because that's something I am working so hard to improve and fall short of. But ministering those relationships that are formed through ministering are so special. And a lot of converts don't have anyone a part of the church unless they're married, unless they have kids, but they're also learning as, like for me, I learned about young women's as my daughter got into young women's. I learned about, different places in the church because of my kids going through that. And so I think ministering is super helpful just to maybe get those questions out that they're not comfortable asking at church or in the back of the classroom. And then I always say, teach or prepare a talk like nobody in the classroom understands, because as a convert, we often don't know biblical stories, church lingo, any songs, or even where something is located in the scriptures. So I miss and love this about Gospel Essentials is they just kept it like basic, and it kind of helped converts keep going and not, sometimes you're sitting in class and you're like, what? Because it goes so deep, which I think is super helpful. But for a convert, I'm like, just when you're preparing a talk, even like speak as if there's so many investigators there.
Yeah, those are really valuable pointers. I don't know what you want to call them, but yeah, just fantastic things to reflect on. And if we look, probably many of us are, I would hope that we're doing those things to some extent, but we can for sure be doing better. Like anything, there's always room for improvement. And especially I think the one about talking to just writing a talk as if everybody they're hearing it for the first time.
Yeah, I think that's so important because even just me, the years go on, we have all this information, whether we're planning a lesson or we're talking, but if you can start with the basics, at least you're like, and you can go deeper with it, but starting at the basics helps everybody in that room understand, you just never know where someone's out in their progress.
Yeah. I'm so grateful that you are doing this. I think about any situation in my life where I have been a beginner. It is nice to know that there is somebody that understands, somebody that relates and knows what it feels like to be a beginner in that same situation. Because I really do think that it's hard to understand. I mean, we've all been beginners at everything before, but I think we quickly forget the insecure feeling that being a beginner can, that comes with being a beginner. It is an unsettling feeling, and it is uncomfortable, and it is scary, and all the things. So it's nice to know that somebody understands you, somebody is walking the same journey as you. And I'm grateful that they can find that resource in you or anybody else who is a convert. There's always converts that we can reach out to, but what a fantastic resource you have to offer them.
Thank you. I'm super excited about it. I think it's amazing.
Okay. So Kayla, before we go, can you tell people where they can find you?
Yes. So I keep it pretty simple. I have a website, theldsconvertcoach.com, or Instagram, the LDS Convert Coach. Just make sure you do the before LDS Convert Coach. And I do have a private Facebook group, but if you go to my website, you'll be able to link right to it. I do monthly workshops on a topic every month. And the one in April is Converts in the Word of Wisdom. So that is a great one to be a part of.
Ooh, that's awesome. And is that in your Facebook group that you do those workshops?
So I actually do Zoom, and you can sign up for that on my website.
Okay. So that is where they could find those. That's fantastic. That's a great resource.
Yes.
So nice to visit with you today. And everybody who's listening, thank you for being here. Make sure you share this with all your friends. I guarantee that anybody listening has friends that are converts to the church that could benefit from listening to this conversation and hearing about this resource. So be sure to share. Thanks, Kayla.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.